Welcome back to By Request.
We received a really sad letter, which I'd like to share with you all right now.
You have to read it.
Hello, my name is Brooke. I am 19 years old. Last year, I lost my best friend to suicide. I didn't know what to do. I lost my way for a long time. I've just started to come back around. I miss him so much, and I wish he knew all the things I should have told him. 12 years is a long time, but I wish it was longer. It's hard to do the things I once did. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's hard.
Okay. We have therapist Kimberly Moffit back with us to talk about
ways
the
to deal
different
with
ways
grief.
to deal with grief. Welcome, Kimberly.
Hey,
Thank
Kimberly.
you for being back on the show. You heard Brooke's letter. Where is a place for her to start?
Okay, well, grief is a very complicated thing, especially for somebody so young. So this is, I think it's a really devastating letter that speaks to a lot of kids out there these days that are experiencing something that didn't exist as much 20 years ago. So Brooke, I mean, it says in the letter that she's just starting to come around, but, you know, it really does take a long time to deal with grief. And they say, research suggests that it takes about 2 years to fully grieve somebody. And I think in Brooke's case, it might even be a little bit longer because it was such a traumatic nature.
Brooke mentioned feeling guilty, which I think is the case a lot of the times with suicide and friends. And
Then you could have done something.
Yes.
Definitely. So in most suicide cases, there's going to be somebody that feels that there's something they could have done, or maybe they, and I think hindsight is 20/20, right? So we always go back and we look at the things that, we remember things that they said that could have been a clue. And I think it's really important to remember that you were their friend, and a lot of the times we don't notice these things. It's really, really not your fault. Most of the time suicides happen as a result of a mental illness, and they really can't be prevented. Now, there are some warning signs that you can spot if you do notice somebody maybe making plans or giving away their possessions. Always ask somebody if they have a plan. If you think that they're at risk, ask them if they have a plan, and if they do have a plan, it's time to tell somebody.
But it's important to know that if this has happened in your own family or to a friend, it's not your fault.
It's not your fault.
So what sort of support should Brooke be looking for?
First of all, I would recommend that she spend as much time with friends and family as she can. She should really be putting herself around people who love her and kind of letting herself grieve that way. But also, I would recommend her seeing the help of a professional, someone that she can talk to and really help herself understand what's happened and how she's going to have to deal with that for the rest of her life. Because what grief is really when our reality doesn't match what our expectations are. That can create conflict and grief.
So as a therapist, do you encourage people, generally speaking, to feel that grief instead of over-medicate in situations like this?
Absolutely.
Yes.
So being able to fully process the grief helps us to accept that this is what's going to be for the rest of our life. Over-medicating isn't a great idea because 2 years later, when the medication has worn off and we're not taking it anymore, we still have to face those problems. We still have to face the fact that our friend isn't going to be there.
Which is probably your initial reaction when something like this happens, is to just push it off and try to do whatever you need to do to get by. But feeling it full on is what you're saying.
And it can be very painful. It can be, I mean, especially, and I think in her case when she's 19 years old, this is something that I think is hard for anybody to go through. But when you have somebody who's 19 years old who's having to really cope with what is life and what is death, I mean, that's a very big
What if you're not
concept.
able to see a therapist for one reason or another?
Where do you get information?
Yes,
Well, I would recommend, first of all, talking to friends and family, finding someone that you can really relate to talk about how do you feel about it, okay? Maybe somebody else who knew the person, or connecting with, you know, community members or school members who knew this person as well. That can give you some closure. Because she mentioned also that there were things that she wanted to say to him that she couldn't have said. I'd recommend maybe writing a letter to him, saying all of those things, and then mailing it or putting it away.
That's, I think, really good advice. I've heard that before, writing a letter.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for being with
Thanks.
us. Where can people get more information about your practice?
Sure. Well, I think you should visit my website at www.kimberlymoffit.com. And on there you can also find some more grief resources.
Well, Brooke, we're going to play Kenny Chesney's video, Who You'd Be Today for You, by request. Thank you so much,
Thanks.
Kimberly,
Thank you.
again.